Hello and welcome to the Webster Report. I'm your host, Paul Webster, as per. It's just a bit of an impromptu live session today. I've got a guy who we've just been reminiscing, actually, because it's come to fruition that we've actually been on a show together many, many moons ago before Raconteurs News. And it's from that I've become friends with Brian, who I'm going to be chatting with now. He's going to come out with a lot of information, personal information that he can verify, and he's not afraid to talk about this stuff. And this is, these are the conversations that we've got to be having, especially when you see the totalitarian dictatorship that is being at least laid in foundations all around us. I've never lived in times like this, and we've really got to get these grassroots conversations going between people, because people who are climbing ladders in so-called politics doesn't work for us. They don't work for us people. When you start realizing that, maybe we could make some changes in politics. But it doesn't work. We've really got to start having a conversation about this stuff. Anyway, with no further delay, Brian, how are you? Introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah,
and tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Yeah, I'm Brian Clare, just an ordinary person who wants justice for the children, what's been in care and what's going to be in care for the future. My main area is exposing child abuse within the childcare system, as some people might know. I've done it for 30 years. I've done it since 1986, and I would just like to tell people who don't already know a little bit about my story.
Please do, crack on, mate.
Yeah, thank you, mate. And well, my mum was like, my mum struggled in life. Yeah, she used, as horrible as it sounds, she used to drink bleach for attention. Yeah, nothing happened to me, but it was just like in social services come in, took us into care on not an interim care order, but just as a care order, like for a couple of weeks to assess us.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it ended up that I was put into care, and I was put into care for 10 years. Yeah. Sorry about this.
No worries.
Yeah. And it ended. I'll tell you what. Give us 5 minutes. Give us 5 minutes.
No worries. We did when we had this chat before, and he said the dog will be wanting to get on the show all the time. He barks at anything outside, so we'll bear that in mind as it goes. But like I said, Brian's going to get into this topic further. Are you all set there, pal?
Yeah, I'm all set. I'm all set. He's not happy I put him in the bedroom, but he's new to Anyway, but like I say, I went into care in 1979. Yeah, I went into care under something what was called behavioural disorder difficulties and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I was a bit of an unruly child, but what child isn't, you know? Anyway, I was taken into care. Within the first week, I was sexually abused in the home. It was I thought it was a home, but it was an assessment centre. Now I'm like 7-year-old, and I'm surrounded by like 14, 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds. You know, I was classed as a baby. I think I was probably one of the youngest to be taken into care in the northeast. You know, and I was abused in like they had a cell there. Yeah, they actually had a place what would be classed as a police cell. Many years later, I went back with the statements under Operation Rose, and the solicitor actually looked at us, yeah, because to me it was like I was back in that role that I was in when I was in care, you know, and he said the information I gave was absolutely amazing. He said the details is unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, I was abused in Emsworth House in Sunderland. Yeah. And I was transferred to a family group home. Yeah, unbeknown to me, they wanted as adopted social services. Yeah, without permission of my mum. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
they were even doing it all those years ago. They were still implementing that then.
Yeah, and from Aisington Lane, yeah, I was transferred back into the very same home that I was abused in. So Seamus would be waiting there rubbing his hand, knowing that I was on my way back to Emsworth.
Yeah. Yes.
I played up at Aisington Lane and I played up all the time. What would be known as playing up, like I would give them as much as they would give me. Yeah, because I would not give in to them. Anyway, so I went back to Emsworth. Yeah, and then from there, I went to Dr. Bernardo's in Hexham. Yeah, another foster and adoption. Yeah, I played up there. They couldn't handle us. I went back to Emsworth, where Seamus was waiting. Then in 1979, I went into Can 77. It was in Emsworth about 3 times. Yeah, in Aisington Lane once during that time. The last time I was at Emsworth, yeah, I was transferred into this new magnificent home. Yeah, and the home was called Witherwack ICU. Yeah, unusual name for a children's home. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. And at any one time, this Witherwack place, what I was in, yeah, held about 25 children. Yeah. And what always got to me is, why was it called ICU? Found out years later that they changed it. They changed it as fast as they could because it was called Individual Treatment Unit. Witherwack ITU. Yeah. Now why would you call Witherwack a treatment unit when it's a children? Yeah. So anyway, by this time I'll have been getting on through about 11, something like that.
What year is this, Alan?
Brian? What year is this? This is 1979.
Sorry, Brian. I was just thinking of Alan. Then, what year is that?
1979, when Witherwack first opened.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So from 77 to 79, I've been in Emsworth 3 times. Yeah. Been in Aisington Lane once. Been in Dr. Bernardo's once. Yeah. So this is another one I've been transferred to Witherwack. And I was getting to be 11. I was getting to be more sturdy, more aware, you know. And with Witherwack, I was sexually assaulted. Yeah. By a staff member. He grabbed hold of me testicles, squeezing them as a form of control. Yeah.
Yes.
I was also bullied. Yeah, by a lad in there. Yeah. But from what I know, it was on the orders of the staff. Yeah. But I'll try and put it more smoothly. 1979, I was 11 years old. I went into care. The first few weeks that I went into Witherwack, the first few weeks I was in Witherwack, everything was fine. There was only me and these other 2 lads, yeah. But the place started to slowly get full. Yeah. Remembering that it just had opened. When I was introduced to the staff, when I first went in, everything was everything was nice, friendly. But the more children what were coming in, that's when the staff would change like that. Yeah. So with Witherwack, it was more, in my opinion, it was more about behavioural modification.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that, I witnessed it. So all the violence that I witnessed in Witherwack, I witnessed a lot of it. Yeah, because that's what Witherwack was all about. Yeah. So the years that I spent in Witherwack was mainly, I was more aware, I was taking everything in. And I believed I was kept in care a lot longer because I witnessed. Because of what I witnessed 2 lasses get raped. Yeah. In 1986, when I come out care, I went to Fountain Police Station, CPU Child Protection Unit in Sunderland. Yeah. Tried to do something about it. They just treated us like an idiot, really. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, right, you twat. Yeah, I'll do something here. In a way, I'm glad it happened, mind you. In a way, I know that sounds crude, but I am. because it just gives us more determination. So it took us 5 years with the help of the local paper, the Sunderland Echo, to get everybody together. So in 1986, I went to the place about Witherwack. Unbeknown to me, there was already an investigation going on into Witherwack in 1986. I found out years later that there was actually 10 investigations into Witherwack while it was open. Now, at some point in 1993, one of the cases, this is a case to do with Witherwack while it was open, while I wasn't there, was come out in the public limelight. Yeah, this was where the staff at the time were getting the metal trays, you know what you carry your tea and that in, yeah, heating it up, yeah, and putting it on the back of the kids' backs. Yeah, his name was Kevin Ruff, ROFFE. It's available on the internet, all the stuff. The other one was Glennis Tamblyn, TAMBLNE, Tamblyn. Yeah, the judge at that trial actually turned around to them and said, "You're very lucky that you haven't been charged with child torture." Yeah, it's very rare a judge would come out with the word torture. Then it comes out. Then it comes into something. Then it comes into something else, doesn't it?
It
when you mention torture, you know, it comes into something else more, which is more serious, you know.
Yeah, so, you're talking higher cases, though.
Yeah. So in 1986, first 5 year got everybody together. Then there was like a 2.5 year campaign with the Sunderland Echo, and because I come forward and put myself in the Echo, there was more information coming through. You know what I mean? So I thought, well, sod this, I'm going to the place. Yeah, I went to the place, yeah, and it's like 90% of my evidence with the Sunderland side led to Operation Rose. I had a good rapport with the place, you know what I mean? But the same place, one of the police officers, which is David Walkup, yeah, left Northumbria Police, and guess where he went to investigate? After he'd retired from Northumbria Police, got a nice little handshake. Guess where he went? Jersey.
No idea.
Jersey.
Oh, interesting. I interviewed Lenny Harper from Jersey.
Lenny is excellent. I thought, I mean, you think about with a Jersey case, right? You find a skull, right? And this is a chief constable in Northern Ireland, dealt with the IRA every day. He dealt with the UVF, UVA, UFF. You know what I mean? He's dealt with them every day. Proper top terrorists, yeah. And he goes on TV and says about the collagen. Next day, he's forced out of his job.
Yeah.
You know, Lenny's a good one. Right?
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation because the thing that locks me with the McCann's case, you know, we're all looking at this German fella now, and we know we've got good proof she's dead. Well, there was good enough proof for me, circumstantial as it may be, when cadaver dogs indicate twice in the apartment, once in the car, and on the mother's clothing. I'm not going to start asking questions anywhere else until we found out how the hell do you go up to Portugal on holiday and come into contact with death.
I don't know if you remember when we done the other interview, yeah, but I don't know if I mentioned that there was someone come out with a link with a Dutroux case. Yeah, where it was a member of the UN with a mustache, like Mexican type. Yeah, it was a high member of the UN. What actually it was rumored what actually had it, what got it. Yeah, it was some member of the UN, but nothing's ever come out across about that, you know.
No, that's what I mean. There's so many distractions going on, and it's got to coincide with the amount of paedophilia stuff that is coming out. I mean, Hollywood is bleeding to death with paedophilia stuff now.
Well, it's modern paedophilia in Hollywood. It's satanic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's rampant. It's rampant everywhere, Brian. People don't realise it. I've just spoke with a guy, my mate Ken. He went into town the other day, and he's an oldish fella, Ken. He's had a quadruple, but he's like a bull. He just keeps going, this fella. Anyway, he bumped into a fella he'd not seen for a while. Had a bit of a chat. Went to a pub for a couple of pints. 4 of them sat there. They knew nothing about paedophile rings in Hollywood, in politics, satanic. They knew nothing because the knowledge, that their information base was so that, you know, it's people have the general public have surpassed themselves. For me, Brian.
I'm a product from the very system what abused us. For years, when I left care, I thought, well, even at 16, I mean, I locked myself away for years, you know. I mean, obviously, I was making ex-residents and that, but sort of generally locking myself away. You know, I was having the nightmares. I mean, when I went back home, you know, my mum used to have to come in the bedroom and wake us up. I was having the recurring nightmares. Now, in them days, if somebody left care, it was like they had the meeting on the morning, the assessment meeting, yeah. I'd say the Tuesday morning, I left care on the Tuesday afternoon, yeah, and I knew nothing about it. It's my mum walking down the path. You know what I mean? I went up to get my clothes, and that all my clothes were gone. You know, my mum had to go to the very people what abused us for money for my clothes. It was literally like that, you know.
And the amount of, you know, I should, you know what work I do with, Brian, so I should to say about money, but the fact is that care system was paid so much for you, and if you look at it, the equivalent of now, I've heard figures up to £80,000 a year for one child.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
if you,
yeah, it was Blair, wasn't it Blair what sped up that? Tony Blair. Yeah, he done the deal in Norway, didn't he? And now what it is, if you notice, is a sudden rush of taking children into care and kidnapping them. Yeah, but if they don't get the quota, did you know that the agencies get fined 66,000 per child?
Yes,
so in the long run, that's exactly comes back to what I said. The product of the system.
That's exactly it. And when
use that to come back at them, you know.
And the system is set up for that. The system's set up for us to ignorantly breed our children, which are our property in law, and we give our property away to these people who say, you take care of our property, but if you don't, we'll take it back. And when they realize that they can manipulate, they can socially engineer demographics to say we'll get loads of revenue from that and that and that. And these kids that are disappearing in the system, and we're worried about putting useless masks on.
Coming back to the care home system, yeah. Years later, I didn't believe in such thing as like MK Ultra and stuff like that, you know. With the work, it didn't go as far as that, but it was on the fringes, yeah, because I got hold of my medical records, yeah. And obviously, when I took this case to court, well, loads of us did, yeah. It was like something in my medical records which sparked us to say that the reason why I went into care was, yeah, first of all, on my files, which I've got here, death of parents. My mum was alive, yeah. And the other thing is, I come across one before I went into care, beware of epilepsy, yeah. I can always remember having epileptic fits in care. But what the staff used to do is, I think they misinterpret them. Yeah, is like having a wobbler,
having a tantrum.
Yeah. Having a tantrum. That's it. You've hit it on the nail, mate. Yeah, and about 5 or 6 of them would just come down and jump on you.
Yeah, no.
In my files, this is what the solicitor picked out. There's 27 incidents where they openly admit abusing us. You know, wow. So with the case, we did change legal history. This was at the same time as the Raymond Loth case, the lottery rapist.
Yeah, yeah.
So we took it to the very high court. First of all, we wanted people to get access to the files. Yeah. So we got that, but it was an overall ruling for other people's cases as well. Yeah. Also, the litigation law was based on Lister v. Lister, which is one of the most famous cases of legality. Yeah. What we done was, it wasn't about money with me, but I had no other choice but to prove. What council would pay out that amount of money if they weren't guilty? They don't just go on the street. They don't just go on the street and give thousands and thousands away, do they? You know?
Anyway, not if they don't have to, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, so this was the legality. This was the litigation case. Yeah. And I've lost my way there. This was the litigation case. Yeah. And we changed it because previously anybody what's awarded money, yeah, the cost of the case has to come out of the person who's been awarded the money. Yeah. Okay. You get awarded £100,000, cost is 120. Yeah, you've won the case.
Yeah, but you owe them 20 grand.
But you owe them 20 grand. We changed that because it even included not getting taxed on the money. The amount of money I got, obviously it didn't bother me. I wasn't about it. I actually donated quite a bit of it to NAPAC, National Association of People Abused in Childhood. I knew Peter's work quite good. I knew Peter before he set up the organisation, yeah. So I used that money for the very same reason. It's to go against the council in a way. I used that money to help other survivors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also in the 90s, we changed the NSPCC in the way. Yes, they had the phone lines, but what was annoying me was the fact that the phone lines weren't live. There was nobody on the other end. It takes a lot for a survivor to speak to a phone, right? You're speaking to it, and it's a recorded message. That just in your subconscious, that just says to you that they don't give a shit.
Nobody cares, yeah.
Yeah, so
it was funny with you talking about stuff like that. I wrote down earlier about Childline and Esther Ranson because of Esther Ranson's connections to paedophilia and all that caper, and then you see her the face of her Childline.
That's why I withdrew. That's why I withdrew supporting Peter at NAPAC. Yeah, I withdrew supporting NAPAC because at the time the chairperson was the patron. Sorry, the patron. Esther Ranson. I had a word with Peter about that, and then she was kicked off. Well, Peter done the right thing. Like I say,
I think you find a lot in this web that people like yourself have been caught up in. A lot of the time, the web could have probably been broken and destroyed, and people saved quite easily had good people done something. A lot of the time, we see this evil just persist because good people don't do anything because of either problem, it's a job that pays bills or it's bullied themselves. It's all kinds of capers. But this is why we've got to get this conversation going, Brian, because people at local levels need to realise that it could be your children. This.
I've campaigned. I campaigned for local election. This time round it'll be 3 times. Yeah. But I'm doing that. I know I'll not get nowhere with it because the council absolutely detests us, and I absolutely detest them. You know what I mean? So you can imagine me.
You must be doing something right then, son. You must be doing something right.
Well, I've hunted the council. I've hunted Sunderland City Council down on me since I was 16. Recently there was 2 paedophiles within the council. Like all over the country. One of them was in Washington. This was in Middleton, yeah. Everybody thinks he got busted by the paedophile groups. He didn't. He actually got busted by the police, which makes to me that there was some sort of operation going, like police operation going on. Yeah, very rare the police monitor paedophiles. Very rare. Yeah.
Very indeed.
What was it? He got suspended from the council and that procedure. Yeah, but the council was still backing him. Yeah. Recently, within the last 5 months, there's a former councillor called Tommy Tommy Wright. Yeah, that's in the Sunderland Echo for the listeners. Yeah. Coincidentally, he was on the Labour Council when Witherwack was kicking off. Yeah, he was one of the ones who tried to block Witherwack as an investigation. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, people, that in my opinion, there's been a paedophile ring running in Sunderland for many, many years, and involved the council. Not as big as Epstein. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is councillors. I mean, I've never come across this directly. I know of councillors who's visited the homes. Yeah, but I'm taking this one step further, where councillors were visiting the homes to get the children. You know.
Yeah, it's an industry that's been going for a very long time, and the councils, if you can control councillors via paedophilia, you will purposely look to put paedophiles into your councils, because through the councils are funded. All that funding for, you know, what I do, all the utility bills that the people, the men and women, should be writing off to the council, that is all stored up. This is what they're all sat on, whilst they're charging council tax for properties that aren't liable for it. It's bonkers.
I'm just going to have to get the dog because he's crying.
Yeah, no worries. You crack on, mate. I'll
like I say,
So you've got Brian talking about his local council. How many local councils could have this problem of being controlled, manipulated? How many councils could be like that? These councils control the police, and they control the courts, the commercial courts. It's all about what is going on with this system. The system is built to control, and the mortar of the pit that's holding all this together is paedophilia. I was going to tell you, Brian, that there's a local fella to me called John O'Malley. He's campaigning at the moment because he got harassed and restrained out of his own property, and had a restraining order where he couldn't reside at his own property and live with his own wife. And long story short, John had put a lot of reports into the police about Eastern Europeans using a derelict college for prostitution and drug running and stuff like that. They raided it, they stopped this, but for somehow they found out who had been providing this information. Now, bear in mind, the local area is plummeting while all this is going on. And again, good people were doing nothing. This good man's done something, put a stop to it. 30 of these Eastern European guys turn up at his door with knives and machetes. The police turn up and arrest John. That is exactly the same attitude what happened with Rochdale, with Rotherham, because it can't be them, because it's racist. And why? It's because this guy is white. It's ridiculous, man.
We've got the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse at the minute, haven't we? We've had it for the last 5 years, 6 years, right? Look at the amount of people what's resigned, the amount of people what were put in charge. We had New Zealand, we had we had Judge Butler stuff, which I know quite a bit about because of Middlesbrough. Yeah. Then we had one from New Zealand. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'll get on him later. Yeah, and now this is the fourth. This is the fourth chairwoman. Yeah, same chairwoman. What was in charge at Rotherham?
See, you can just see it, can't you?
I mean, I'm not here particularly slagging her off, but while I'm here, I'll say it. Yeah, I was asked to be co-participant status getting up to about 3-4 years now. Yeah, something like that. So I went down to the Truth Project. Yeah, I said my statement on about LB. Yeah, I know I said I wasn't going to mention, but I'm not going to go right into it. Right, recorded statement and everything. Yeah, I've got it there, which I'm entitled to have. Yeah, recorded. Yeah. Once been known to me, I'd done that interview with them. Yeah, the information's apparently safe. Yeah, but when I signed for the recording, part of that signing is you sign the Official Secrets Act.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? I want people to be aware. Yeah, I mean, I just found this out the other day of a very good friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but I'm glad. That I stuck by my word and said I wasn't speaking to Dingser, because in the 30 years, I mean, I was at Waterhouse, North Wales. Yeah, I was at that jury trial, whatever. Yeah. So what I've witnessed at Inkster, because I've been down a few times. Yeah. So what I've witnessed at Inkster is very similar to the Waterhouse inquiry. Yeah. I.e., I personally think Inkster are covering up with all the information they've got.
So basically, they're having survivors sign statements giving, and because they're saying, "Yeah, come tell us all your information, we'll investigate it." But basically, what they're doing is then, once they've given all their information, is right. You can't talk about that ever now.
I mean,
so it's just gagging orders. They're just gagging people.
With that recording. I mean, I went down to tell them about LB in case somebody else come forward to them with information what can help them. You know what I mean? And that's why I couldn't have said, "Oh, well, we want you to be a co-participant status." I think so. I said no, and they said, "Why not?" And I told them straight. I don't, because nothing will ever come of it. And any recommendations by INCSA are only that. They're only recommendations. So you take them things to the councils. Councils are fully Labour run or Tory run, whatever. That council's got history of abuse in the children's homes. They're not going to pass that through.
No.
You know
So
what I mean?
basically by getting you on board that ship, they restrict you from being able to talk about it on any other platforms as well.
That's my
again, it's gagging orders in every way they can possibly gag, be it even if it's not through a court order, it's still a gagging order. You know, they do it through the mainstream media as well. This stuff that they talk about, guidelines. The thing that's got me, Brian, is that the general public have bought into so much of this rhetoric. They don't really need to say much for people to actually believe it. You know, this mask thing, people thinks it's law. It's not law.
I found with the general public that the attitude now. Stop it, Milo. 2 minutes. Get here.
Anyway, as I was saying, the masks, the mask thing, people are having these guidelines. The police are saying they can't enforce it. Shops are saying they won't enforce it if people turn the custom down. But if they get enough people to just keep wearing them and shouting at everybody, that means the society has been changed. And people who haven't got any information will buy into all this panic. And when you're talking about paedophilia on such a scale, I mean, this is bigger than industrial farming. It's such a scale that controls every aspect of people's lives, from finances to law to local guidelines and juries, and it baffles me that people don't want to, you know, just watch the omnibus of Emmerdale and do a bit of research, and you know, it's your kids at the end of the day.
I mean, what bothers me now with the children is obviously education has always been false, hasn't it? I mean, obviously people have the different views, you know, but the education, certainly what education I had, was all about imperialism and stuff, you know, and general education I had, right? But the education that they're given primary, now that everything's on about sex education, yeah. And I mean, don't get us wrong, I'm not anti-gay. I'm not. What men want to do with the boyfriend, that's up to them, as long as they do it in their own time. You know what I mean? Away from kids, that's up to them, because they're adults. Yeah. But LGBTQ, yeah, which is apparently a gender disorder. The Q meaning paedophile. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They're bringing.
Well, I know
TQ are bringing this into the primary education. Yeah,
it's definitely an agenda.
Eventually, in 40 and 50 years' time, it's perfectly fine for a 40 or 50-year-old to be walking down the street with the 11-year-old kissing them and doing what adults do. You know,
That's how it goes. That's how it works for him.
I know that sounds extreme, but if you notice, that's which way it's going. You know, look at Antifa. Look at Antifa history, full of paedophiles.
Yeah.
Antifa's leader in America has just been done for pornography children.
Yeah, he has.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. People have got to start switching on to this stuff, but you know, that's what we're doing these conversations for. I had a good conversation with Alan. Alan was talking about his personal experiences. The guy John I was telling you about, he grew up, he was abused, not sexually, but he was abused in a care home where he said you'd be walking past one of the wardens, he says, and all of a sudden you'd just get punched right in the side of the head, and there'd be no reason why. There'd be no reason why. And he said he got to a point where, at the point, you were talking about how they get into control mechanisms. He said, I had a 17-stone man at the age of 12 sat on top of me with his knees on my shoulders, punching me. This guy. No, this guy, John. He said he had a guy.
That's what exactly happened to me, Raymond.
Yeah. John said he's knelt on top of his chest and he was punching him relentlessly. And he said when he stopped punching, he realised I was laughing at him. He said because I'd been hit that much, it didn't mean anything anymore. And he said just laughing at him made him stop. He said, but it got to that point. And John, you know, he turned his life around. He can just about read and write if you listen to how he speaks. Well, but he can build you anything. And he's an handy lad now. Became a boxer. He teaches boxing to kids who haven't got anything to do. You know, he's being harassed horrendously by the system.
I presume it's 70% of people what left care. Yeah, that either, especially within my period, especially leaving care late in the middle of the 80s, you know, moving on to the 90s, you'd find that most people in care have hit drugs. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so did I. I'm not going to lie, I had a really bad amphetamine, really bad.
Yeah.
I didn't go to any therapist or anything like that. I brought myself off it. Yeah. And I thought, well, what am I going to do now that I'm sort of sober? Yeah. So I pumped all my knowledge, what I knew about up until that period of time. I pumped all my knowledge of what I found out about homes and stuff like that to solicitors. Yeah. Because at the time there was no solicitors set up for people who've been abused, just specifically dealing that. So I helped set up ECAL, which is Association of Child Abuse Lawyers. Well, I didn't help set it. I put a lot of my advice to them. Or Lee Moore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And what I found out now is, say you're living in a little village, there's one solicitor, you go to the solicitors haven't got the ability to do it, yeah? So they have a list of solicitors, TAP, ECAL. So that case goes to ECAL. But what I'm finding out is ECAL are getting 90% of the cases. Yeah. Well, that to me, yeah, ECAL are there for the survivor, but ultimately the solicitors that they're employing are as dirty as the solicitors what were at Waterhouse.
Well, they're the best ones to put in place, aren't they? The ones that you want to, if you want to cover it up, you want to be investigating it.
Mm-hmm.
And or at least you want to have control of that investigation.
Well, like I say, I mean, legally with the solicitors allowed and everything like that. I mean, I had to leave one solicitors because they weren't weren't doing the job properly, and the solicitor what was representing us from that solicitors later went down to work one of the top lawyers firms in London, which is Stewart's and Lincoln's Inn, yeah, and later worked with Boris Johnson, and that was within a 5-year period. So what I'm saying there is, as far as I'm concerned, with Operation Rose and with the solicitors, especially within Sunderland Council as well, they all colluded not to get the full truth about Operation Rose out. All the information to do with Sunderland Children's Homes was presented to the judge. Yeah. So it went through a pre-trial, all set to go forward. Yeah. The police initially said a 3-year investigation because it was so big, so it expanded from Sunderland into Newcastle, into Middlesbrough, so it got bigger. The police needed more time. Yeah. Because the police initially asked for the 3 years. Yeah. They wanted more time. But the judge refused that on the grounds that the defendants, yeah, wouldn't it would be against their human rights. Yeah. They weren't found guilty or not guilty. The files were held up were held up, so they're there. You know what I mean? So if anything else comes out in now will correspond with them files, it could result in another case.
Yeah.
And also, the judge said, with there being that many investigations into Witherwack, obviously 5 by council, 5 by police. He says that would interfere with anything that we say in the trial, as the ones who brought the case. Yeah.
Much easier to control it. Much easier to control it after the events, isn't it? Historical child abuse. It's so easy to control. You've got a few people you can throw under the bus. If they're dead, even better. If we ever get to the point where we actually investigate live, we might actually make some real changes to this, Brian. It's
over the years. I think over the years, like I think in the 90s, early 90s, I think as a survivor, we had some sort of chance of getting some sort of justice. We had more of a chance in the 80s and 90s of getting justice. Yeah, because if you notice the amount of, even with that law was changed, I never knew that law the law that would change, the litigation law. Yeah, we changed it for the better for the survivor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that law has been overturned and gone back to the way it was in the first place.
So they found something. They found some reason in that case that they could attack to turn it over. That's all they do. It's all they do to do these cover-ups. It's unreal. We were talking about the councils and how rife it must be inside them. The case law that they sit under for all different types of things. Before you bring a case, Brian, you've got to actually take the case law right to Supreme Court, repeal it, and then bring your case forward.
That's what
we're doing. This. We're in the process of that with council tax now. We're waiting for a second High Court date because our last one was adjourned. So we have to repeal that before we can bring ours forward.
So on not what you've just said, on that, what I was saying, Paul, yeah, the idea now is for me to get my legal papers because I still don't have them. And something in my legal papers changed the law for the better for the survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that case could be used now to help survivors. So at the minute, I'm trying to apply for my legal files. I phoned Stewart's up about 10 times. I think they've closed down. So I phoned the Law Society. Yeah. The Law Society were very unhelpful. You know what I mean? Because them files must be somewhere.
I spoke to, when I rang the Law Society, one of the things they told me was that there was nobody there legally trained.
They've got the old rumbled of the Baileys sitting in the little offices.
Exactly, mate. How everything is set up to ignore the likes of me and you, pal. And all they've done is they put gates up, and then they've trained us all to not ask questions. And the ones that do ask questions are the ones who are singled out. But I don't think you'd have got this drive, Brian, because I certainly didn't get my drive without losing everything. Materially, I had everything taken.
Well, I did, and you're right. I mean,
and it was when I got to that point, I went, I need to know how you've done this, because you're doing it to more than me. This has got to stop. And I'm only one man. I've got a podcast. There's 15 people watching us live now on an off-the-cuff thing. That's amazing to me. That's amazing that 15 people, within 12 people, you might know everybody in the world. If it's shared 12 times, if it's shared 12 times and it starts a couple of conversations.
I mean, the important thing to me, like I was in a protest a couple of weeks ago in Sunderland, about 5 or 6 people there, but the important thing to me was, it doesn't matter whether there's 2 people there. It's getting out what has to be said. You know what I mean?
People can't unhear things.
I mean, what else? It's also Coal Beach as well. It's also the Coal Beach case. Yeah.
That's interesting one. That.
Yes, Coal did get. He did. I mean, I don't know him, but he did get convicted of voyeurism. Yeah, as far as I know, not interference with a child. Yeah, I'm not justifying what he done, mind you. He's able to get sentenced for that. In fact, so he took a photo of a child having a pee, yeah. Well, that's what he got done for, yeah. Now I was at the trial, following every bit of it, yeah. And the judge was directing the jury.
Yeah, seen that.
And the stuff that Cole come out with was corresponding with stuff I knew years ago. So within me, I knew Cole was telling the truth there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a little bit conflict. There was a little bit conflict a while ago about his campaign, and I was saying, well, Cole's telling the truth. And then, they usually get accused of being a paedophile, sympathizer and stuff, But I said it because that information, what Cole was saying, was vital to the other survivors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's the point. I know a lot of people who've taken cases with the purpose to lose them, because it creates and muddies waters for the people who are coming from behind. If he's bringing out information that is vital to survivors like that, and then he gets sentenced and made an example of him as being a paedophile, then that information is cloudier with him as well.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, I mean, the police, for them people who don't know, the police went into Harvey Proctor's flat in London a good few years ago, so he was under investigation for something else. I mean, I'm sorry to be so plain, but they found a child's pair of knickers covered in blood.
Yeah.
They've done nothing about it.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now the next thing is for the public. I mean, in the 80s, when you come out about child abuse and that, the papers never picked it up. Media never picked it up. People weren't prepared to listen. But then round about 89, 90, people started coming out more, started hitting the papers. You know what I mean? People were accepting that it happened. Yeah, I think we had more freedom in the 80s, in the early 90s. Yeah, people were starting to accept what happened. Yeah, and if you notice, the media started getting bought off Johnson Press.
Yeah,
shot all across the country, and then the papers, and that started going against the survivors.
It coincided with the Cook Report one.
Oh yeah.
It coincided with that when Cameron bought the rights of Central Television.
That's right. Mm-hmm. What Ben was saying, what Ben Fellows was saying.
Yeah. Well, see, there's another guy who's come back on the scene now.
Yeah, don't I know it?
What's your opinions? Have you got any opinions on that?
Well, I think I know what you come to, Paul. I've worked with a lot of campaigners, a lot of civil. And when I say I've worked, I know them, put it that way, yeah. And what's got us done at the minute, done in at the minute, is these so-called campaigners, yeah, have let us down. Like it's the one thing all the time. It's money, isn't it? Like these certain campaigners gain money in under false pretenses, not representing the survivor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this instance of a certain person taking money off survivors. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I'm not perfect. I'm not the be all and know all of child abuse. You know what I mean? I'm only a survivor. You know.
But the point is, you've got a lot of insight there.
But I won't stand by and let survivors be took the piss out of.
No.
You know, and that's what it is with me in the minute. You know, I am sick and tired of it because I've seen it. I've seen it a few times. You know, and you don't, like I say, you don't believe everything you hear. You've got to see it. You've got to see it with your own eyes. You know,
definitely.
Like somebody you've known for 12 years who's like in charge, not a cop or out like that, who's another survivor who took the Medimsley case to court. We all know about the Medimsley case, 3,500 survivors. Yeah. And when this person took that person for the money, what they earned, that's an absolute disgrace, you know. Yes, we need money for campaigns, of course we do. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, otherwise, you'd be nowhere. But it's when you can't rectify. I'm not just on about one particular case here, which people know what I'm on about, right? I'm not. Yeah, I'm on about generally. There's organisations out there what get donated like hundreds and thousands of pounds. Yeah, or they say they've spent it on this, they say they've spent it on that. But if you're setting up a charity, yeah, you'd want that charity to be properly registered, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good money laundering place anyway, foundations and charities. That's why I don't like it. The thing for me, Brian, is this money concept. We live in a debt-based economy where we only have currency. We don't use money. We use credit, as in we exchange our labour for pieces of paper that other people will accept, and we circulate them. If we took that back to our treasury away from Bank of England, we wouldn't have this money problem. We would just have people who can get together and say, we need to do this. These are the resources. But it's this money concept. That and paedophilia, mate. You put that, I mean, if you can control the country by just printing its money supply, then what else do you need? What else do you need? You get paedophilia in everywhere else.
I mean, look. I mean, obviously, it's stating the obvious. Rothschild, he said this, didn't he?
Exactly.
You control the money and you control the world, or something.
Yeah, give me control of a nation's money supply. I don't care who makes its laws. If I now own every member of council and parliament because they are abusing children, then, well, I control the police, I control the courts, I own the finance system. Are you surprised that people are being brainwashed and abused and laughed at? We had a 5-mile queue for IKEA when they reopened IKEA, Brian. That is where the general public have gone. I don't know what to say.
There's no way saying that. There's no way the big supermarkets and the big establishments like that can say that they lost money, because what's happening is now you've got them big queues. They're gaining more money because there's more customers.
Exactly.
Everything. I mean, everything's about a lie. I mean, over the years, everything I've noticed when I was more woke, you know, just in general, not just about child abuse. It's just like politics, general life, your private life. Everything you do is now under scrutiny by a government what wants to be totally socialist. Well, not socialist, totally communist.
Yes.
Yeah, but communism in a form that nobody's ever seen.
Well, that's what cultural Marxism did for them. They destroyed the family unit. They destroyed society. They made it so that there's, the sex before marriage is the norm, and going out with somebody for a sex day is normal. Well, this, it might sound great. I mean, it might, to a fucking 17, 18-year-old like me back then, it would have sounded great. But the morals and principles that I still cling on to, because even though I engaged in the world and have, made so many fucking stupid decisions, when I look back, I can see the breakdown. My generation was the generation that first got TVs in different rooms of the house. Do you know what I mean? So I'm the opposite side to this. I'm spoiled rotten. I've got a TV to watch what I want on, 4 bikes to choose from. My mum and dad had nothing when they grew up. They worked bloody hard and gave me everything. The only child, it didn't do me any favours.
Well,
I didn't understand money or anything.
That's me. I'm more your traditional valuers.
Yes.
Because really I lost that family bond when I was in care. Even though I'm still in contact with my family. But ultimately, the family bond, growing up with the family, I lost that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So whether or not that made me more aware generally, I don't know.
I don't know. It's difficult. I always remember my dad got me into the conspiracy stuff with JFK. We watched one documentary where they were virtually saying this last bullet caused all these other injuries. And it was basically a bullet stopping, turning right, stopping, turning left to do it. And I said, Dad, how can they get things to do that? Because me and my dad were shooting rifles at the time as a kid. And he said they can't. And he just left it at that. He didn't explain why, or he didn't try and tell me who had done it or anything. He just sowed that seed. And so it was always JFK all the way through. And then you have other monumental things like 9/11 and then 7/7, and then you have your own personal tribulations that blows everything open, and you're realizing everything I've been taught is wrong. I need to start relearning. And then being in touch with people like yourself who are not only waking up to the system, everything being wrong, but who's physically gone through stuff that is still going on. And we're ignoring it for bullshit and bollocks everywhere else. And it's time we fucking started talking about it.
Like you say, Paul, the most important thing in life is children. Because they're your future. I mean, without stating the obvious yet again, they're the important part of anybody's life, because they're your future. They're your future blood. That's the future of humanity. What's humanity going to be like in, say, 60 years? When it's perfectly normal for a man to have sex with a child. And honestly,
we've been trying that for a long time now to make that normal.
That scares me. That scares me more than me going back into care. If I was to go back into care and go through everything.
I'll tell you a perturbing one for me. Have you seen a YouTube video of Desmond is Amazing?
No, I think I've heard of it, but
he's an 11. Well, he might be 12 or so now, but he was an 11-year-old drag queen, and he was on Good Morning America, and he was filmed acting like Gwen Stefani, walking down a catwalk while grown men put dollar bills in his pants.
So ultimately, it's all sex.
And CPS said there was nothing for the parents to answer. I don't get this, because this channel's been promoted so much.
Mm-hmm. Like I say, I know with the CPS and Child Protection Services in America, Trump's actually whereas it was separate, I think it was separate organisations, but all part of CBS, I think. Yeah, Trump's brought it down where it's one building, one organisation. There's other buildings, but this main office building, Trump's brought that down. because what is in America, the amount of children what's being child trafficked through CBS. I'm not saying every CBS worker
Yes.
is a child trafficker. You know what I mean? I'm not suggesting that one bit, you know. But at the same time, you know what? I think I know what you're coming to do. I think you know what I'm coming to do. It's the queue. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 30 years I've done this, do I believe underground tunnels? Do I believe the children were rescued? In a way, I do. I'd like to hope that. I'd like to think that if there is children underground, well,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I like to hope that's happening. Yeah. But ultimately, to get any justice, because this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing that the world's possibly ever seen. It's going to take at least 4 or 5 years to even prove that it's happening.
I agree.
Get everything together. You know?
I agree, Paul. I agree. It's but like I said, this is why I wanted to talk to you. I mean, when I was talking to Alan, it was Alan that actually said on the show that he'd spoken with you, and you'd like said, "Oh, you know, Webby's an all right lad. He's speak to him" type thing. He said, he said that's why I spoke to you.
I mean, I've done loads of interviews, right? And if you remember, the interview I'd done before you set this radio station, I think it was probably one of the first interviews I'd ever done. So in a way, you give me the confidence to go forward on the interview. You know what I mean?
And that is brilliant. I love the fact that you can give us a bit of credit for that, because I'm the same. Vinny Eastwood gave me my first platform. Unfortunately, I thought Vinny was just a radio show. Didn't realise he was a YouTube channel until my mates from work sent me photographs of me scratching my balls in my Family Guy pajamas. So my information was good, but you know, to be how I looked at it, Brian, to be an ex-taxi driver and an ex-window cleaner, I'm not meant to be clever enough to understand that in a debt-based economy, as a creditor, I should be acting a certain way with national debt bills instead of trying to pay them, which I can't in a debt-based economy. I understand it's a doing nothing with now, whereas I didn't back then. And to give me the confidence of that, somebody put me on a radio show, asked me questions that I answered, and it left them with questions because they didn't know. So they went out and they went and looked, and then I ended up going around the country doing a couple of conference talks, which, I mean, there's a couple of talks where I've been absolutely borderline smashed because I've been that nervous before getting onto a stage and in front of a microphone, where I'm putting myself out there, where somebody could ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, Brian. Oh my God, and then that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, I was like that for a long time, you know, like crowd, like in 2000.
Yes.
Like in the big get together in Trafalgar, I could only get up for 5 minutes, so I never had it was my own fault, but I never had the chance to say everything I wanted to say. I mean, I'm still like that. I think with crowds, and when I'm speaking, I do get angry. I don't get angry at the crowd, but I do get angry within myself. Angry to the fact that what I'm saying, I've said for so many years. Yeah, there's people out there what believe us. What I'm saying is that a lot of my stuff, a lot of other people's stuff, a lot of people from all over the country's stuff is so compelling. Yeah, that eventually it will bring. I know it sounds extreme, but it will bring the law system down.
It doesn't sound extreme at all. It doesn't sound extreme at all, mate. I've worked in this system myself. Not with child abuse, but with you know, council tax and utilities and all this kind of caper. And I see what they're doing. All they've got now is to batten down the hatches because they're done. You know, the justice system, they're attacked from all kinds of places on these mortgages. Banks aren't lending money. They're stealing people's property. You can't repossess something you've never possessed. So there's an absolute fraud going on. And your work is taking the mortar out of all them bricks so that that wall can just be pushed flat and we can get behind it. And then all those people, the justice that is going to be dished out. And I'm not I'm a believer in that this is more of a spiritual battle than a flesh and blood battle, but we are embroiled in the flesh and blood. But the justice that's coming for this world, Brian, you've got to do your bit, and you're doing your bit. If everybody does their bit, this is going to be easier.
I'm trying to do my bit for myself with work to try and get justice. Yes, that in the early years.
That's how it starts.
That's how it was. Yeah, I needed to do it for myself.
Of course.
Yeah. But then when we never lost the case legally, but the case was put on hold. But then the stuff that was coming out with the case, I thought, well, where am I going to go now? I'm getting it as far as I'm sort of getting it into court. A week's deliberation, it was thrown out. Yeah, not because they were found guilty or not guilty. It was put on hold, right? But the thing is, oh, I've lost my count again. Sorry. The thing is, yeah. Oh no, I've lost my count. Sorry, Paul. I've completely lost myself there.
It's no worries, mate. But like we were saying, everything is held together with this paedophilia, and you had to start out on your own, because at the end of the day, you've got to try and do justice for yourself. I did it for my own. I did it because somebody said that they were going to take my house that I inherited, and I was paying everything. You have no claim on this. So I basically said, fuck off. If she wants to sell her property, which is her half, she could have sold her half to you, Brian. All I can do now is negotiate with you how you're going to share the property, or you're just investing in it. The police, the judges, nobody can say we're taking your house. But that's what they did. Now I had to get that selfishness in order to find out what had happened to me, so I could get it assimilated. When you stood in Nottingham at a conference where you've just given a talk, and somebody waits 20 minutes stood next to you while you're talking to somebody else, and then
what conference you at?
Hey, sorry.
Can I ask
BCG, I think it was.
I think I was there.
Well, this guy drove 4 hours to speak to me, and he said, "I've listened to your video, your YouTubes all the way down in the car." I went, "Bloody hell, you're a bugger for punishment, and coming here to talk to me as well." And he shook my hand, introduced himself, and he said, "I just want to tell you that you saved my life." And I stood there holding his hand, going, "What? What do you mean?" He said, "You saved my life." I said, "I don't understand it. But how did I save your life?" He said, "Because of coming across your video," he said, "it dropped so many pennies for me." He said, "I was able to explain it easier to my family and friends who had already started to ostracize me because they thought I was going fucking nuts." And he said, once I explained it better, some of them went and had a look and they went, "There's something in this." And all of a sudden I felt myself accepted back in the family. And he said, "I'd thought of doing all kinds." And I just looked at him and I went, "I was trying to save my own life, mate, but I'm glad that somebody else benefited from it," because I was in that selfish mode. The one thing I won't do, Brian, is I won't do these cases for people. I've had money thrown at me to take cases. It's a killer. It's a killer not only of yourself, it's a killer of your time, it's a killer of your emotions, and it's a killer to your family and friends. It's a killer. I've lost more friends than I have now. And obviously they're not good friends, because I've lost them because they thought I was going nuts. And basically they get you the true friends. And I can count them on one hand.
Yeah, I mean, saying that, if I can, Paul, I'd like to mention a couple of people who, in the years that I've done all this, who were really genuine, honest people. If I can,
please do, mate. Please do.
Obviously, there's Mandy Copeland. Yeah. There's Anne-Marie. There's Beach Home, which is Sue and them. Sue, Alan, yeah. Who else? I would also like to mention a person called Kat Scott.
Okay.
Her knowledge and her information is absolutely vital to any of this. Her knowledge is more Scotland, yeah, but certainly within the way of which I'm not involved with, and I don't want to be, in the way of satanic abuse, yeah. Cat Scott very very up there, which is Spider Cat blog, yeah. Obviously, I'll let the readers read the information on there.
Well, if you can give us some websites as well, you know, what give the viewers some links so they can go and start to check this stuff out.
I'd say one of the best websites in the world is probably Angerfan, which I think you'll have heard of, Paul.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, Angerfan's an absolutely brilliant site. A lot of information was on there long before the inquiry, long before Jimmy Savile. A lot of information was on there before anybody even knew about Savile and stuff, you know. That's about it, Paul. That's about it. Yeah. Obviously, there's other campaigners out there who know us, and I've got respect for them as well, you know. But if we can, Paul, can we call that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, mate. I just wanted you to get your information out. I really appreciate your time, Brian, to come on and have a chat. I'd only put it down for about an hour anyway.
It's more the fact that you've given us. It's more the fact that you've given us the time to get all this out, and that comes down to respect, because that shows that you care for the children as well. To me,
mate, you can come on this show whenever you want. Give me a shout, and we'll go live whenever you need, providing I'm not in work. But yeah, I'll do it anytime, mate, because this world, it needs good people to just do something. You can't do everything yourself. You know that, Alan. I know that. Alan, I keep fucking calling you Alan because I keep thinking of Alan. I'm going to have to speak to Alan because you've given me so many. Every time you were talking, it was going, Alan said that, because I need to get my mate John O'Malley in touch with you two as well. When I told you about what happened to John, and it was exactly what happened to you, this guy has done a lot. This guy has done so much locally.
The physical, saying that what John said, yeah, there was a case in Staffordshire, the Staffordshire pin down.
Yeah.
Yeah, which opened. This was long before any inquiries, or even the idea of any inquiries by Parliament. Yeah, the Staffordshire pin down. Yeah, that to me is the best site. What explains the physical side of things? Because the person what brought the training in for the so-called social workers in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, actually in an interview said that the techniques that he brought in were wrong. They were snapping people's bones, they were dislocating shoulders, you know what I mean? And this is kids. This is kids at like 9 and 10-year-olds.
Mate, I know because I deal with those kind of stuff with adults that you can't use them on kids.
Just before I go, people, one of the stories which will show you like how heavy it goes, yeah. And my nana had died when I was in Witherwack. My nana had died. I'd stopped in my mum's for a week, yeah. I come back to Witherwack. My tea was on the table. I didn't want to come out of my room, yeah, because I wasn't in the right frame of mind. So I pushed my bed up against the door so I could get some peace, yeah. Next thing I knew, 3 social workers kicking the door in. They kicked the door in so bad that the bed had actually hit me. Yeah, my hand went flying through the window. Yeah, as you can see, people. Wait, I don't know if you can. Or 13 stitches there.
Yeah.
On my wrist. Yeah, I know this sounds stupid, but it took them at least 20 minutes to even get the keys for the van, because they said like it was pointless phoning an ambulance because it was that I was losing that much blood. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not a thing mentioned on my medical files. Not a thing mentioned on my medical files about this incident. But I've got the scar.
Do you know what, that scenario when it played out, that if they'd have let you, if you'd have died there, they would have said that you broke that glass, cut your own wrists, and they broke the door in to try and save you.
Yeah, that's what Witherwack was. And also,
Wow.
could I ask people to look up the story of Colin Smart? Yeah. Now Colin Smart was a former director of Sunderland Social Services. Yeah. Obviously, Colin had nothing to do with our case, but he had to do with the Kevin Roth, Glenys Tamlin case. Yeah.
Okay.
Colin was willing to come forward for them survivors who were taking that case to do with Witherwack. Margaret Thatcher's government issued him with a High Court injunction. Colin also was third in line to be association directors, which is a very high, powerful job, possibly getting a job in government.
Yeah.
They issued him with this High Court injunction. From what I can gather, it was the first injunction of its kind in England, which leads to me was the more to Witherwack. But he also apparently he also worked on the Victoria Columbia case.
Right.
Do you remember the Victoria?
No, I'm not aware of that one.
Yeah, that was Islington, where the fire fell into the bath on this young black child. Yeah, I think it was Islington. Yeah, and he worked on that. And Colin, when I got to know Colin, because obviously I found out about Colin through the Witherwack trial, not the one that I was involved with, but a different one. Yeah, I took his agent to find his address, so he was expecting us. So I went down, and the stuff that Colin told us, he had the files there. It was entitled. I didn't tell you about the files. During the time he was social services director, he collected loads and loads of information and put them all in a file on the abuse of children in Sunderland, in care homes. Yeah. Right. And when I went down to see him, he goes, all the files are up there, Brian. Right. I goes, oh, can I see them, Colin? He goes, no. I goes, why is that? He goes, because I would get done by the courts. So that proved to me that he was honest in a way. Yeah. But what I was more interested in, unbeknown to me, was the stuff that he was telling us. Yeah. That there was a case in the northeast where a child had been took from a children's home into Holland. Yeah. That one of the councillors from Sunderland City Council used to like to dress little boys up in short, like the old posh Boy Scout, yeah?
Yeah.
Like to whip him on his backside with a whip.
Wow.
Yeah. At the minute, for the last few years, we've got a councillor called Dave Allen. Another one that was on the council while Witherwack was ongoing. There's allegations that he had sex with a young child years ago. That young child fell pregnant. Yeah. So the child's mother had to have something to survive on, like money to keep the child going. Went after maintenance. There was a blood test done, DNA, and it proved that Ben was the child. It proved that he was the father. Viva Baird. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No.
Yeah, former person in charge of the police in Newcastle, which is Northumbria. Yeah. Connections with Peter Walls, who's the former head of the city buildings, like the local buildings, right? But what happened during the Witherwack case, the director at the time, John Marsden, he was slagging us off on that, but with us, in a way, proving what happened in Witherwack happened, even though it didn't go to court. Obviously, I called for his resignation, and obviously he went. In the meantime, they had nobody to fill his position. So who did they put in his position? Director of Sunderland City Housing, who had no previous ways in social work. Yeah. Now that's very unusual because that just doesn't happen. Yeah. And guess where Peter Walls is now? Well, he was
promoted.
Yeah, Peter Walls was in charge of Viva Bear's charity set up for survivors of abuse.
See, that for me is a good way to money launder, because if you've got control of the head, you can control everything through that. It's unbelievable, mate.
I mean, like I said, Sunderland City Council have so many problems at the minute. I suppose all councils do. But there's also links with a bloke called, I have it there. Was the only one to have ever been knighted during Margaret to do with social service. Oh, Brian Roycroft. Yeah. Brian Roycroft was very heavily involved with child abuse. Yeah. It's all over the internet anyway. Yeah. But the thing is, one of the reasons why I got involved with what was happening in North Wales was because there was, notice the number, there was 66 children sent from North East Children's Homes into North Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a big connection. There's a big connection there, because one of the paedophiles who got done in North Wales worked in children's homes in the North East as a teacher. You know, and there was a link in with Brian Roycroft. Then there's another case. There's so many cases. Then there was Shieldfield.
You can see the supply lines, can't you, being set up?
Then there was Shieldfield in Newcastle, nursery. We all remember the case with the Plymouth. With Plymouth, what happened down there? But many, many years ago, there was a case. There was a case in the Northeast called Shieldfield Nursery. That Shield is in Shield, yeah, and Field is in Field. You know.
Yeah.
Just Dawn Lily and Christopher Reid. That was the names. Dawn Lily and Christopher Reid people. Yeah. What else? And there's also the Medemsley case. Now, to me, obviously, Medemsley is not a children's home, obviously, to anybody. Yeah, Medemsley is a detention centre, right? Now, when you think about it, the children would have been abused in care. It's like in certain instances I've come across, social services can only look after them at the time, can only look after them until they're 16. They had nowhere to go. But there was incidences, even in the late 80s, where they were getting sent to hostels.
Yeah.
That's done a crime. We're getting sent to hostels. Yeah. With Medemsley, yes, there's some hard twats, you know what I mean? Some of them done robberies and stuff, fair enough. Yeah, and I do believe in discipline. Yeah, but not discipline to the fact where you get locked up and kicked to shit and basically raped. There's incidences, yeah.
Yeah.
At the minute, what Medemsley's trying to do, they're trying to change the law. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting case to watch out for, people. Yeah. And obviously, the next part of the INCSA, Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, yeah, is the Jana, it's Grenville Jana. What I do urge is people to tune into that, yeah, and listen, yeah, because as far as I'm concerned, Grenville Jana, yeah, Grenville Jana is a major player in this. My opinion, yeah, he's Jewish, yeah, but a lot of influence, especially when it comes to child abuse, which most common people know that, yeah.
Very, very high up in judiciary as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's full of them.
So, yeah, we know this. We know this.
I'm not anti-Jew, by the way, people. I am anti-Zionist, but I'm not anti-Jew.
Me, every time I say things,
and I'm not anti-LGBT. I'm not anti-gay, but I am anti-PI, Paedophile Information Network. As far as I'm concerned, their ideas are moved into the LGBT movement, which is creating the idea of having sex with a child.
Well,
I'm not saying all gay people do that. I'm not saying that. So if there's anybody gay, I don't mean that.
No. Gay and lesbian friends of mine tell me that they are sick, you know, especially gay lads, because they say they've always been pulled in by the general population. They got pulled in with paedophiles and they've done everything to keep themselves away from it. And the LGBTQ has now smashed all that to pieces. So gay people are anti-LGBT for me.
Yeah, same as the so-called lefties, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's all a plot to make us all divided.
They'll make a comment on something politically when they haven't even got an effing clue, because the stuff that they're commenting on was years ago, and they forget people went through that, so people do know the truth.
So that's a lefty. Somebody who comments on something they know fuck all about's a lefty. I just thought I was a knobhead. Oh no, that's cleared it up for me.
Credit. Well, I wouldn't take happily being called a lefty, like, but there you go.
Well, me and Jason.
But I'm not right wing neither. You know, I'm me. I'm a person.
Me and Jason on Raconteurs News.
Yeah.
We've been called hard. We've gone from hard left to hard right. One of Tommy Robinson's supporters thought that we were far left.
I mean, the court case. I mean, like leading up to the court case, I was told that I was a political subversive. I thought to be subversive, you know.
So you want to hang on, shouldn't we all subvert politics?
A political subversive doesn't make sense because one's contradicting.
No. Oh my word, man.
You know?
Anyway, I've been trying to get Mandy to come on the show. She said she will, but we keep passing each other. Mandy Coupland, yeah. Brilliant woman. What she in Nottingham have achieved is absolutely unbelievable. Even I didn't achieve that changed the law. Yeah, she is. Yeah, she is. So I'm hoping to get her on to keep this conversation going. But in the meantime, Brian, anybody who you feel is, you know, who you think, they've got the integrity to come on and give out information, get in touch with me or Jason, and, you know, we'll facilitate something, because we want to keep this conversation going, because we're coming at this now from so many different angles. I know you want to get off, and I did only put it for an hour and a half because it's a heavy subject. And after speaking to Alan got quite emotional, because even though he talks about it a lot, he said sometimes I asked a question that touched on something he hadn't spoke about for a while. So I get it's a heavy subject, so I only thought about an hour and a half. And like I said, you give me credit for putting you on this platform. No, I want you're at the coalface telling us what's going on, and somebody up in the control room is saying, nah, that's not right. So I've come down to the coalface so I can go back to the control. That's what we've got to start doing on this grassroots movement. So please, anything, get in touch with me. You're always welcome to come back on, especially give us updates. Just email me, send me information if you just want me to repost it if you can't get on the show. But thank you so much for coming on, Brian.
Before we go, people, there's a protest going on in Nottingham on the 22nd of August. Yeah, it's the veterans. But it's also mainly for child abuse survivors. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of campaigners there, a lot of very prominent people in the field. And what I urge is, if people can make it, to be there. So there'll be more postings about it. Yeah, right. Before it goes ahead, you know, just to make people aware.
So it's about the 27th of August, is it?
22nd.
22nd. When you get some banners and flyers, send them through to me, and I'll make sure they're posted, mate.
Yeah. And thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you for talking to me, and thank you for your honesty, brother.
Yeah, well, like I say, with me, the most important thing, especially in the field of child abuse, is trust. Yeah,
very much.
Unfortunately, because of the past, at least 1-2 people betrayed that trust. They didn't just betray the trust with me; they betrayed the trust of other survivors.
Yeah, I agree.
That hurts, and I know this sounds odd, people, but that hurts more than the psychological stuff I went through. I
agree, because it's almost going through it for a second time, or should I say, every time you go through, every time you're.
But when you put the trust in somebody, you know what I mean, and that somebody years later betrays not just me, but betrays survivors.
Yeah,
that's the worst thing to ever do, is to betray a survivor, because that survivor, not physically, but that survivor will hunt you down for the rest of your life for what you do. Because that's how much it means, not just to me, but for survivors to get justice.
Yeah.
I'll
cheers, brother. I'll thank you so much. I'll let you go. Make sure you see to that bloody dog of yours.
Oh, mine, oh yeah. Like I say, he'll not be happy because I've put him in the bedroom. It's the first time I've ever done that. So literally, he'll go off it.
He's going to blame me for that. He'll blame me for that.
I mean, I bought him a new toy the other day. I put it in the bedroom because it squeaks. Yeah. So I went to the toilet. Next thing I knew, no crap. He's opened that door, which is a sitting room door. He's opened the bedroom door. He was in the bedroom playing with his toy. I mean, dogs are not daft, like.
No, certainly not, mate.
Anyway, respect.
Cheers, pal. Take it easy. I'll speak again. Take care, brother. Bye, mate. And that was Brian Clare. Well, we've got to keep these conversations going, people. A lot of people don't want to talk about them, but it's happening in your local areas. We can keep ignoring it as long as we possibly can. But when it starts to knock on your door, it's only then I think you'll do anything about it. And, paedophilia doesn't knock on everybody's door, but the system that is controlled by it is going to knock on everybody's door. And that system is going to possibly start taking people's property off them for a pandemic that they advertised, they scenarioed, they broadcasted, and the general public have acted with not much common sense, in my opinion. Let's hope we can wake a few people up. Cheers, lads, girls. Have a good one.